What's the difference between a sandwich and a baby? I don't fuck a sandwich before I eat it. And that's actually one of my favorite jokes. Not because it's the funniest joke I've ever heard, but because of the looks on people's faces when I tell it. Comedy is actually a form of art. Even the shock comedy that's not going for a laugh as much as a gasp. Whether you liked it or not, that joke was really well constructed. Took a lot of thought to prepare that joke, and that thought came from a dark place. Is the end result edgy? Yes. Is it offensive? To some. Is it cringy? Sure, maybe. Is it so criminally dangerous that we should censor it? Get the fuck out of here. Now that I've hopefully got you nicely uncomfortable with the depths of darkness in the arts, if you're not familiar, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of a diarrhea cannon. Imagine that literally for a second. Someone walks into your home and turns on a diarrhea cannon for 30 seconds. It's going to take so much longer than 30 seconds to clean up all that shit. Metaphorically, it refers to a person who opens their mouth or hits the keyboard for all of 20 words. But they've packed so much bullshit into a single sentence that it's going to take 100 words to prove them wrong. Now, diarrhea cannons are almost invariably incorrect, and it's usually simple enough to prove them wrong. But it takes forever. The best part is, diarrhea cannons tend to be ideologically driven, religiously driven, emotionally driven, pick your fucking poison. But they're the person that you're not going to convince. And they're going to open their mouth again. And then you're going to be left holding the bag full of shit that's overflowing. And you're going to have to clean that up too. It literally is better to just not engage. Don't interact with them. It's not worth anyone's time. So why am I about to do it? In this case, because it's going to be fun and it's going to be easy. Yeah. Low-hanging fruit? Fuck that. I love me some road apples. I've got 6 comments, choice comments, 3 from one thread, 3 from another, relating to the same thing, censoring art. It's 6 comments, all of 47 sentences, and part of this video is demonstrating how long it's going to take to deconstruct and prove wrong all the bullshit that keeps coming out of this person. So, buckle up, this could be a long one. Just a bit of context here. A while back, I hooked up with some anti-pedos, tried to get people who were actively calling for pedophilia banned from minds, and now the groups that I hooked up with seem to be shifting towards banning art that they don't like. Now, the art does depict, and art, I mean drawings, depicts children in sexual situations, graphic sexual situations. But I'm saying that it's protected by free expression because it is, and he's claiming it isn't. I've redacted names to protect the innocent, but also the name of the commenter because I really don't mean to address him directly. Simply the argument's position, and just to prove it wrong. And I know I'm not going to convince him if he watches this. I'm assuming it's a guy. I don't care if I've misgendered him. But I don't mean to engage him directly. Just his points, so here we go. So, he says hello. Announces that he is a member of a group on Minds called Anti-Hearts Progress, and that he's against pedophiles. Great, wonderful. I think they should be killed and it be done with. Well, debate about capital punishment aside, and that's a debate worth having, I think. I'm not entirely sure what he means, and that's one of the hallmarks of a diarrhea canon, to be unclear. Does he mean that people who have been convicted of harming a child should be put to death? Or is he saying anyone with pedophilic tendencies that has not harmed a child should also be killed? Because if it's the latter, I'm not the person to explain to him why that's wrong. See, I am not a mental health professional. Are you confusing breaking the law with censorship? I'm fairly certain those are not actually the two ends of the argument here. But no, I'm not. Minds is not yet, hosted from sovereign servers and has to abide by the laws of the host countries. That's true. Careful, because diarrhea cannons will love to serve with a garnish of truth a horse pucky and call it a steak. As much as you want images of children being raped, subjective as it is, proliferated across your newsfeed, it just can't legally happen. Well, I made it very clear in the previous video that I don't actually want that, but it is covered under free expression. You cannot post pornographic images of children, even in art form. I don't know why you are arguing for it. It doesn't matter what we think. It is a matter of the law. I'm not actually arguing for it. I'm arguing that it's covered by freedom of expression. And I don't know where the hell he's from, but it is in fact not a matter of the law in Canada and the United States. So I discovered on the website law.cornell.edu that under U.S. Code Title 18, Part 1, Chapter 110, Section 2256, Definitions for Chapter, that U.S. federal law defines child pornography to mean any visual depiction including photograph, film, video, picture, or computer-generated image or picture, whether made or produced by electronic, mechanical, or other means of sexually explicit conduct where the production of such visual depiction involves the use of a minor engaging in sexually explicit conduct. Pay attention. The production of such involves the use of a minor. Production involves a minor. As far as I can tell, the production of a drawing involves the use of a pencil. And if that's not convincing enough, they go on to define identifiable minor to mean a person who was a minor at the time the visual depiction was created, adapted, or modified, or whose image as a minor was used in creating, adapting, or modifying the visual depiction, and who is recognizable as an actual person. He's wrong about a lot of things, but most importantly, he's wrong about the law. By your logic, sick people can abuse children, take pictures of it, and so long as they paint or draw the image, you think it's fine for people who like that sort of stuff. That is not at all my logic, and if that's what he got from my previous video, then he's a fool, which leads me to believe, because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, I don't think he's stupid. But if he's not stupid, then he's a liar. This is worse than a straw man. It's worse than being disingenuous. This is literally just making shit up in an attempt to win an argument that he's already lost. How would you know? That's a really weird question. And he's going to circle back to it, so we're going to circle back to it and address it then. You would be right up there hand in hand with monsters defending it. I suppose if I knew I would be. But the fact is, I don't know, and what I'm defending is freedom of expression. I'm defending art from censors, so I'm not hand in hand with monsters. Yeah, fucking cunt hole. Jesus, fuck. Not that you are arguing for child abuse, or are into that. Only in this video, you are arguing for glorifying child abuse. I'm doing no such fucking thing. I'm arguing for free expression, especially in art. If it doesn't matter if he finds it offensive, it doesn't matter if I find it offensive, it doesn't matter if 99% of the population finds it offensive, even if it is glorifying child abuse. It doesn't matter that we find it offensive. It's free expression and should not be censored. And then you said, art doesn't hurt anyone. I did say that. Because it's true. Ever heard of art crimes? I've literally never heard that term until I read it here. Did you know that vandalism actually costs people time and money to repair their damaged property, thereby hurting them financially? Another hallmark of a diarrhea canon is failure to understand their own implications. The implication he fails to understand here is that he seems to think that throwing a brick through a stained glass window is art. Let's simplify it for him. If crime is part of the media required to create something, the end result can't be called art. Does that help? Have you ever heard of government propaganda? This dangerous art form has ruined countless lives. The difference between this and other art is that government propaganda almost invariably involves a call to action of some kind. Calls to action are not always covered by free speech and free expression. Referring to my previous video, he says, I remember that discussion. You never did respond to me, and funny how I get left out. Was it something I said? Are you bigoted against furries? He quite literally got left out because of something he said. Because what he said was, and at the time, I really didn't feel like cleaning up the mess. As for furries, I could take them or leave them. A person's personal perversions, as long as it's between consenting adults, say for example, an artist and a consumer, aren't really my fucking business, are they? And now we circle back to that very strange question from earlier. How would you know that a drawing or painting of child rape isn't a depiction of an act? I'm going to respond to that question with a far superior question, one more rooted in Western democratic ideals, based on one of the principles of our justice system, namely the presumption of innocence. How do you know it is? In the context, he's still referring to drawn images as child pornography when he says, child pornography is incitement to violence. And no, these drawings aren't. The same way that people who have painted images of a Nazi executing a Jew aren't inciting to Nazism, and they're not inciting to the execution of Jews. The same way that an author who writes mystery novels and describes a particularly grisly murder for their protagonist to later in the novel solve isn't inciting to murder. Again, The diarrhea canon has no idea what the hell they're implying. You are arguing for pedophiles getting horny, and you did nothing to show otherwise. Being aroused isn't a crime, even for pedophiles. And that had absolutely nothing to do with my video, so I had made absolutely no effort to show otherwise. Also, free speech does not apply to private companies. None of us are entitled to free speech on Minds. And this is in fact something else to watch out for from diarrhea canons, playing the rules against the context. He's absolutely right. We're not entitled to free speech from a private company. However, the context is that Minds claims to be a social media site that is pro-free speech and expression. That is how it was presented to me, how it was advertised to me by Dave Cullen, aka Computing Forever. My point, when I brought up free speech and free expression and why I've done any of this, is that if Minds starts banning people for drawings, Minds.com can no longer honestly refer to itself as the free speech social media website. They make it easy. They really do. It's long, but they make it easy. Since Irving Twin doesn't want to play and lose, what I didn't want to do was play chess with a pigeon. Doesn't matter how good I am at chess. The pigeon's going to kick over all the pieces, shit all over the board, and strut around like it won. Let's play with the other short-sighted. Here he's referring to a few other people in the thread who were also commenting. Oh, this is 11 words. And my God, if we hadn't unpacked most of this already, this would just be... I don't know how long it would take. Why is child pornography awesome, and why should it be protected? Nobody ever suggested that child pornography was awesome except this guy. And why should it be protected? No one's arguing for child pornography being protected. But he keeps conflating drawings with child pornography. And the drawings are protected. Why? That's an entire other discussion, but they are protected. This original poster's video reeks of virtue signaling and proof that alcohol impairs judgment. This guy came to me to tell me that he is so anti-pedophile that he's part of an anti-pedophile group on Minds, a group of which I am also part. And then to tell me that I'm hand in hand with monsters for defending freedom of expression, but also claims that I'm the one who's virtue signaling. Paraphrasing someone with whom I'm familiar who also commented on one of his ridiculous threads later, I don't think he understands the concept of virtue signaling. I'm certain no one needs more proof that alcohol impairs judgment. But this idiot seems to think that I am always drunk. I don't know who failed to teach him the concept of permanence, that when he doesn't see me in a video, I continue to exist, and large swaths of that existence are sober, during which I do my musings. I do cutting and pasting and redacting, and hone and refine, even embarrassingly rehearse what I mean to say to the camera. Once all that work, prep is done, I crack a bottle, fire up the camera, and get it going. This idiot seems to think that alcohol informs my position. My position is my position. Alcohol is the reason that I'm willing to tell it to other people. Art can hurt people. Wrong. I wasn't comparing vandalism with child pornography. Technically he was, but that's neither here nor there. I was showing how the original poster's statement is false. Except he failed to do any such thing. He just fails across the board. End of one thread, beginning of another. People are so quick to virtue signal over defense of free speech, and the only thing he didn't do here was spell it freeze peach. And I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. They are willing to let those who would glamorize child rape continue to foster the urge to commit actual crime. I don't know if they're glamorizing child rape. All I know is it's art and it's protected. And fostering the urge to commit actual crime, last I checked, an urge to commit actual crime is not a fucking crime. I'm having a lot of trouble reconciling the idea that a self-professed furry doesn't understand that people are animals. The human animal is an animal, and we have urges. Our ability to resist our urges is one of the things that separates us from most other animals. And here, I'm going to badly paraphrase an idea I learned from Jordan Peterson. If you're not capable of doing harm to another person, that doesn't make you virtuous. That makes you harmless. If you're not capable of being cruel, that doesn't make you kind. That makes you weak. It's a person who's fully capable of harming another human. It's a person who's fully capable of being cruel and chooses not to be. That is virtuous. This guy wanted virtue signaling from me, and now he's going to get it. A pedophile who never acts on their urge, who knows it's wrong, who knows it causes harm to a child, and yet denies themselves, is more virtuous than a person who is offended by a fucking drawing and acts on their urge to censor. There you go. There's virtue signaling, you fucking cocksucker. The original poster says, art can't hurt anyone, and we should absolutely let people post art that depicts child rape because free speech. Again, freeze peach. It's another example of a diarrhea cannon peppering their bullshit with truth. That is true. I said all of that, and it's all correct. I am of the mind that art depicted child rape is incitement to violence. His mind literally doesn't matter, and I don't mean that simply on an intellectual level. It's not an incitement to violence. It just isn't. He thinks it's incitement to violence, child pornography, and illegal in the US and UK, which is not protected as free speech. It's not incitement to violence. It's not child pornography. And it's not illegal in the US. I have heard that it is illegal in the UK. But I'm starting to wonder, based on his misinterpretation of US law, if it's simply a misinterpretation of UK law. On the other hand, regarding their allowing a Pakistani Muslim gang to roam free for 10 years, grooming and raping as many as 1,400 plus children, I wouldn't hold the UK up as a symbol of both freedom and law and order. If I had my equipment, this is exactly the type of thing I would love to make a video response to. Excuses, excuses. I tried to talk to Irving Twin. I don't know who the fuck he thinks he's kidding. He showed up to accuse me of wanting that shit proliferated all over my feed. He accused me of defending pedophiles when I was merely defending free expression. He accused me of being hand in hand with monsters. This is not an attempt to talk. This is just accusation after accusation. It's a diarrhea cannon spraying all over me. But his response was, and he quotes me here, "I'll tell you why I haven't responded to you. You're a diarrhea cannon. You hit the keyboard and spew bullshit for 3 minutes, but it's going to take me a lot longer than 3 minutes to clean up all that crap. Almost everything you posted in this thread is wrong, and I can prove it. But you're not worth the time it's going to take me to do it." One person left me a comment saying that I actually changed their mind on this issue. Hopefully that means I convinced a lot of the people who were on the fence about this, which also means at least those people will read your comments and know that you're a diarrhea cannon, and I no longer have to address your crap. Good day. And yet I'm addressing his crap anyway. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. Maybe that's my perversion. Maybe I'm a free speech and expression pervert, that I will fight to the death for free speech and expression and love every second of it. Just classic stuff there. I thought so. To be perfectly honest, I was quite pleased with myself. Almost brought a tear to my eye. You want to cry? Cry. It came to name-calling and bullying faster than I could have hoped for. An incredibly accurate, if colorful, description of one's behavior is not name-calling. And if he really believes, if he really feels that he was bullied by that comment, I can't imagine what kind of wuss this guy must really be. I'm at a loss to see how defending someone posting images of child rape is not an ally of pedophilia. Lucky for the both of us, I'm not at a loss to see how he keeps conflating these two things. Child rape and drawings. Defending drawings and free expression is not defending child rape. It doesn't make me an ally of pedophilia. It makes me an ally of art and of free expression. I am not saying Mr. doesn't have time to respond, but has time to craft a huge insult because of how much cooler he is than me, is a pedophile. It's good to see he's acknowledging that I am not a pedophile, and also that I am far cooler than he is. I'm just pointing out his drunken ramblings lead to a very bad place. The musings are sober. The ramblings are drunken. But free speech and expression are not a bad place. His own title says, "I hate censors even more than I hate pedophiles." Turns out this is actually true of me. He leaves out the part where I suggest that viewers meditate on that for a minute. And he clearly has not meditated on that at all. So I'm going to do it for him. Pedophiles harm children, and that's horrific. It boils my fucking blood. But pedophiles are not socially acceptable or rampant in the Western world. Censors are far more socially acceptable in the Western world, especially when some jackass starts going on about how drawings are an incitement to violence against children and such. If you don't think this is true, just look at what's happening at Google. Look at what's happening at YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Antifa, the left in general. Correlation is not causation, but it is quite disturbing that in the strip of the Middle East, where pedophilia and child marriage is rampant, censorship runs rampant too. Pedophilia hurts children, and that boils my blood. Censorship threatens the very fabric of our society that works so hard to defend children. And that boils my blood a little more. If there were only 2 rooms he was forced to have to be in, by Irving Twin's own admission, he would side with the pedophiles over the censors. Aren't I lucky, then, to live in a universe that is not made up entirely of 2 rooms? This is an insight into what's wrong with his position, what's wrong with the entirety of his mentality. He seems to think that this is an A-B situation. Position A being pro-censorship. Position B is pro-pedophilia. Still an oversimplification, but it's more like an A-Z situation, where position A is pro-censorship and position Z is pro-pedophilia. But somewhere between J and O are positions that are both anti-censorship and anti-pedophilia. The entirety of this man's position is spurious because it relies on arguments that are not informed by reality. They're informed by this bullshit that he made up. I'm sure his insults at me have far more malice than my disagreeing with him if art that depicts child rape should be protected. Setting aside how just horrible that English is, I again insist I never insulted him. I accurately, if colorfully, described his behavior. And so, it was completely without malice. The statement seems to imply that some of what he said had some malice. So if my malice is at 0 and his malice is above 0, then again, he's wrong. In my arrogance, I thought I could do this in less than 30 minutes. And, minus the 4 minutes at the beginning, it is now in fact a 30-plus minute video. I did grind his position to dust. At every turn, I proved him wrong. But he's not going to accept that. If I manage to help a couple of people identify a diarrhea cannon and know not to engage, if I manage to convince a handful of people of the correct position that, regardless of whether or not we like it, that kind of dark crap is protected by free expression and shouldn't be censored, great. But did I get a fair return on all this work? It took almost 2 hours to cut all those little images. This is now 4+ hours of recording. And the musing? I mean, not everyone's going to accept that counts as work. And plus, I do a lot of it, while walking the dog or washing the dishes or whatever the fuck else I have to do. But all the time that went into debunking 6 comments, 47, if I'm not mistaken, sentences on a video that's 30 odd minutes and no one's going to watch, did I get a fair return? No, it was not worth my fucking time. I should have been doing a video on how thousands of people are crossing my border and currently receiving better health care for free. And I mean that in the sense that they have not paid into our healthcare system than the average Canadian citizen. They're getting dental. I don't get dental. I gotta pay out of pocket for fucking dental. It was literally not worth my time. And it's not going to be worth yours. Ignore the diarrhea cannon. All because mine's has become my internet home. My animals are trained to shit outside. And this little furry fuck wants to come to my house, shit in my living room, and get a pat on the head and told he's done good. He's not even equipped to be my fucking pet. Don't engage the diarrhea cannon. It's literally not worth your time. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's free country. At least, it used to be.